And while there remain many unanswered questions about who they were, where they came from, and where they went, they have left a record of an inquiry that no one else seems interested in making. Where and how do we learn to believe again in the future, with hope and faith in the meaning of our own existence? The Past Testament, the Past Testament.
The fifth book of Apes, called Lies, otherwise known as the second book of Lies. Chapter 1. From the time that the first pictogram was inscribed on a rock, the ape called man recorded words of all descriptions on rocks and stones of all descriptions. As the inscriptions grew old and became one with the stone they defaced, the apes came to believe that the words were wise. And as generation followed generation, new inscriptions were added to the old, and the apes believed these too, because they were written in stone. And if it happened that one inscription said something different from the other inscription, the priests were there to explain everything. Chapter 2. And so it happened that in time, the apes came to believe that there was only one God, who made everything all by himself, in 7 days and 7 nights, starting completely from scratch, when everything was null and void at the beginning. And this was not all they believed, for they also believed they were descended directly from the first 2 people on earth, who were also not apes, but a man named Adam and a rib named Eve, who started out living in a paradise called the Garden of Eden, but got kicked out forever because Eve committed a great sin by eating an apple she got from a serpent, which turned out to be a bad apple, because the serpent was really the devil, and the apple was really the knowledge of good and evil, which Eve should have left alone, because the apple turned out to be responsible for everything wrong in the world, including the curse, the mark of Cain, the whore of Babylon, the wrath of God, the day of judgment, and much more besides, especially sin and guilt, which everyone is full of from birth, so that there is no good and no peace of mind except from the one God, whose name is Yahweh, but isn't to be mentioned out loud by anyone, nor was this all they believed. Chapter 3. They believed that God had chosen them especially as his own tribe, like pets, and given them all manner of special treatment, including great leaders like Abraham, who tried to sacrifice his son Isaac because God told him to, although God spared Isaac because he was only kidding about the sacrifice, so that Isaac had sons of his own, who were Jacob and Esau, one of whom had a hairy birthright. And something happened between them, something too complicated to remember, nor was this all they believed. Chapter 4. They believed that after getting chosen as God's special tribe, their wisest leaders worked out a written contract with God called a covenant, which spelled everything out pretty clearly about who was supposed to do what. For example, if God yelled, "Jump!" at the chosen tribe, they were supposed to ask, "How high?" and then get right to it, no matter what it was God wanted. In return for this sort of behavior, God agreed to look after the chosen tribe in his own special way, seeing to it, for example, that the chosen tribe would be specially singled out for persecution by every other tribe on earth, forever. When they saw what a great covenant they had made, the chosen tribe built a special ark to keep it in, so they could read it whenever they got confused, which was plenty. What with one thing and another. Chapter 5. But in spite of the apple and the sin and guilt and the covenant, The chosen tribe also believed that God loved them, even if he had a funny way of showing it, such as threatening to destroy everyone in the world, which he did every so often, like whenever he got mad, and then one time when he was really mad, he went ahead and did it, and destroyed everybody in a tremendous flood, except for Noah and the passengers he took on his ark, which wasn't the same ark they kept the covenant in. Because when Noah asked for helping build his, the leaders told him that one ark was enough for any chosen tribe, and that if Noah couldn't see that, he must have a screw loose, or words to that effect. So Noah built his own ark, and filled it with 2 of each kind of animal that wasn't too big to fit inside, such as dinosaurs, which were too big to fit, apparently, and didn't get to go, although the ark went all the way to Mount Ararat, thus saving Noah, and making it possible for God to keep showing his love in the oddest possible ways. Chapter 6. And so it came to pass that Noah begat a son, who begat a son, and so forth and so on, until there were a lot of people again, which convinced God that it was time to destroy some more things, such as Sodom and Gomorrah, which really wasn't God's fault, because he wanted to warn everybody not to try dating his angels, which they went ahead and tried anyway, resulting in lots of fire and brimstone from you-know-who, which didn't kill Lot, because Lot didn't try to date any angels, although it did kill Lot's wife, who didn't try to date any angels either, but she was a woman, and God thought he'd like her better if she was something else instead, maybe something quieter, and so he turned her into a pillar of salt, which stopped her from talking completely. Nor was this all they believed. Chapter 7. For example, they believed the one about the Tower of Babel, which somebody or other decided to build on top of Mount Ararat, and they kept going till they got all the way up to heaven because they wanted to meet God in person for some reason, except that God didn't want visitors. But instead of just destroying the tower with a lot of fire and brimstone like he usually did, this time he made all the construction workers talk in different languages, forever. So they couldn't build the tower any higher, which solved God's problem, but created a new one for the chosen tribe. Because when the construction workers quit work on the tower, they scattered to the 4 winds and set up a whole bunch of new tribes who all spoke foreign languages, so that they could come back and persecute the chosen tribe later, just like it said in the covenant. Nor was this all they believed. Chapter 8. They believed that an ape named Jonah was eaten by a whale, but got thrown up later in good health. And they believed that an ape named Job, who had more troubles than you could shake a pointed stick at, including boils, still loved God anyway. And there was Joseph, who had a coat of many colors, as well as many strange dreams, which convinced him to go to Egypt for some reason, and it didn't work out right, which meant there had to be a Moses, who was born in a basket and floated down the Nile, till he helped Joseph's descendants escape from Egypt, with a lot of miracles including frogs, locusts, and parting the Dead Sea and so forth, delivering them after 40 years into the land of milk and honey, which Moses wasn't allowed into because he didn't always ask how high every time God told him to jump, or didn't ask politely enough or something. And so Moses had to stay behind and die in the wilderness, although right before he died, he got to give the chosen tribe one more gift from God, namely the 10 Commandments, which are so important they always get a whole chapter to themselves. Chapter 9. And God gave the 10 Commandments to Moses on Mount Ararat, and Moses brought them down to his people engraved on stone tablets so that everybody would believe in them. Only they were already busy worshiping a golden calf they had decided to believe in. And besides, the 10 Commandments were pretty strongly worded, being, "Thou shalt not have no other gods but me. Thou shalt always capitalize my name on graven images, including pronouns. Thou shalt not consume any bacon, pork, or other pig products. Honor thy father and mother, no matter how little money they make, or how many chores they ask thee to do. Thou shalt not commit adultery, even if thou art an adult. Thou shalt not covet, whatever that means. Thou shalt not kill, no matter how much fun it is. Thou shalt be circumcised as soon as thou art born. Thou shalt not bear false witness, especially through adultery. And thou shalt not have any fun to speak of ever, because God loves you." And when Moses had explained everything, the people put away their golden calf and believed in the 10 Commandments instead. Nor was this all they believed. Chapter 10. They believed that the land of milk and honey became a great nation, ruled by David, who killed Goliath with a stone, which was some kind of exception to the commandment about killing. And, okay, the way the priests explained it, and David had a fling with Bathsheba, which was not okay the way the priests explained it. And so David had a son who tried to kill him. But David killed his son first, which was probably okay the way the priests explained it, because David loved God and wrote many poems. And eventually there was King Solomon, who was wise enough to cut a baby in two, and other things. And all the time God loved his people and kept on showing it in the strangest possible ways. Chapter 11. For example, there was the first time Joshua knocked down the walls of Jericho, using only the brass section. And there was Samson, who had long hair, which was okay, and was very strong, which was also okay, and loved Delilah, which was not okay, because she cut off his hair and had him blinded. Only Samson won out in the end, thanks to his love, knocking down the temple on his enemies, the Philistines, and himself, until all of them were flat as a pancake, which was apparently okay, the way the priests explained it, because God loved Samson, especially when he was flat as a pancake. Nor was this all they believed. Chapter 12. They believed that God spoke through prophets such as Amos, Isaiah, Jeremiah, and so forth, who warned about God's anger, just in case anybody forgot about it for some reason. And they described the terrible things that would happen if he weren't kept happy, which were pretty terrible, as you might expect. But this was okay, the way the priests explained it, because there would be a Messiah who would save everyone in the chosen tribe who really loved God someday. Chapter 13. And the chosen tribe believed these and other things for many generations. And then God destroyed the land of milk and honey completely and utterly, and scattered his chosen tribe to the 4 corners of the earth, to live as best they could without a country or anything else, which must have been okay because God truly loved his chosen people, even if he had a darn peculiar way of showing it. Chapter 14. Fortunately, by now, there were other great tribes of chosen apes who had beliefs of their own, but much of the same kind, who went on to do great things of their own, which is how history works, things being what they are.